Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to the next episode of the Perfectly Imperfect Spiritual Podcast. If you're new here, my name is Marta, and today's episode is going to be a little more reflective, a little more philosophical, and probably a little more personal than usual. So, yes, let's dive into that. Lately, I've been noticing something about myself whenever I'm invited onto podcasts, workshops, interviews, or conversations where there is space to explore different subjects in real time. And I genuinely love those conversations, not only because I get to speak about spirituality or mediumship, but because I love conversations where consciousness can move naturally, where we can speak about grief, relationships, identity, intuition, emotional truth, human behavior, the soul, visibility, suffering, evolution, mediumship, all of it. And those conversations feel alive to me because if I am being completely truthful, there are moments where constantly repeating the same origin story starts feeling emotionally flattening. And I know that may sound strange, but after a while, when people repeatedly ask, when did it begin? When did you first realize? What happened to you? What changed your life? You start noticing how easy it becomes to unconsciously reduce yourself to one emotionally recognizable version of your own existence. And otherwise, it becomes so boring. Not because the story itself is meaningless, not because the experiences were not real, but because human beings we are not designed to remain emotionally frozen inside one chapter forever. Life keeps moving, consciousness keeps unfolding, and I think sometimes people become deeply unhappy because they are trying too hard to remain loyal to identities they have already internally outgrown. And that thought has been sitting with me a lot recently because I think many people quietly spend years maintaining versions of themselves that no longer fully feel alive. The successful one, the spiritual one, the strong one, the wounded one, the healer, the emotionally intelligent one, the survivor, the person everyone depends on. And slowly, almost invisibly, identity can become a kind of emotional imprisonment. Not because the identity itself is false, but because it becomes too small for the soul that is still trying to evolve beyond it. I think this is one of the strangest paradoxes of visibility. Visibility can create invisibility. The more people know you through one role, the easier it becomes for them to stop seeing the living, changing, contradictory human being underneath it. Instead, they begin relating to the symbol. And symbols are emotionally dangerous things because people become attached not only to who you are, but to what you represent for them psychologically: safety, wisdom, healing, strength, stability, hope. But there is still an ordinary human being underneath all of that. Still someone changing, still someone evolving, still someone becoming. I think sometimes people say they want authenticity, But what they actually want is consistency. They want the version of you they already understand. And many of us unconsciously begin performing emotional continuity for the comfort of other people, maybe for our own comfort as well. We repeat the same story, the same role, the same language, the same emotional posture, because recognizably that creates belonging. But I am no longer convinced that belonging should cost us our aliveness, our soul's expansion. I think one of the saddest things that can happen is when a person becomes emotionally loyal to a version of themselves their soul quietly left years ago. And this applies to so much more than spirituality, relationships, careers, personalities, trauma, success, healing. I remember being on a podcast once where I was asked questions about painful experiences from my past, including an abusive relationship. And while I understood the intention behind the questions, I noticed something happening internally while answering. I realized that if I constantly reintroduce myself through what hurt me, eventually I begin organizing my identity around survival instead of presence. And that changes something because there is a difference between honoring your past and emotionally living inside it forever. Yes, pain shapes us, of course, but I don't think it is meant to become the center of our entire identity. And I think many people unknowingly become trapped there, not only through pain, sometimes through what I've already named today: healing, spirituality, success, through the identity that once saved them. Healing itself can become a limitation when someone becomes more attached to the identity of healing than to actually remaining open to life. Spirituality can become performance, consistency can disconnect us from truth. And after a while, people stop asking, what feels alive now? Instead, they ask, what version of myself do I need to continue maintaining? And that is a completely different relationship to existence. The older I become, the more I feel that there is no singular beginning to us anyway. Human beings are constantly beginning again. Every grief changes us. Every relationship changes us. Every loss changes us. Every expansion changes us. Every moment of truth changes us. There's no final fixed self waiting somewhere at the end of the journey. Only movement, only unfolding, and only deeper layers of consciousness meeting life in different ways. And perhaps that is why I resist rigid labels more and more as I grow. Because if I had emotionally imprisoned myself inside the identity I first became known for, so many parts of me would never have had space to emerge. There are dimensions of this work I never imagined exploring years ago, ways of perceiving I never expected, ways of helping people I never consciously planned. And I think the soul loves freedom. Well, definitely my soul loves freedom, not chaos, not instability, freedom. The freedom to evolve naturally, the freedom to surprise yourself, the freedom to change your mind, the freedom to discover dimensions of yourself that didn't previously exist in your awareness. I think many people are exhausted not because they're lost, but because part of them is trying to evolve while another part is desperately trying to remain recognizable. And that creates enormous internal tension because life is asking them to move while identity is asking them to stay emotionally still. And eventually, that split becomes painful. Maybe real spirituality is not about becoming more fixed in identity. Maybe it is about softening the edges around who we think we are, allowing ourselves to remain unfinished, allowing ourselves to remain in conversation with life, allowing ourselves to evolve beyond the labels, stories, roles, and identities that once explained us. Because perhaps freedom is not becoming someone. Perhaps freedom is allowing yourself to keep becoming. There are versions of you that once carried you through life beautifully, versions of you that protected you, defined you, helped you survive, helped you belong, helped you become. But not every version of you is meant to remain forever. And maybe growth is learning how to bless those identities without continuing to live inside them. Maybe becoming is softer than we think, less about constructing a final self and more about allowing yourself to keep unfolding honestly as life continues changing you. Thank you for being here with me today, and thank you for allowing me to share these reflections with you. I will speak with you again very soon in the next episode. Bye for now.